Hey, Sun Devil fans, Brad Denny with 3TV, CBS 5, and the Speak of the Devils podcast here. And welcome back for another episode of the Speak of the Devils Sit Down series, where I bring you in depth, one on one conversations with key players, coaches, and other figures within Sun Devil athletics. It's pretty funny the twists and turns life has in store for us. One day, you're in the middle of a successful, decades plus long career in finance. The next, you're leading a successful volleyball resurgence in the Valley. JJ Van Niel was a Southern California guy who dabbled a little bit in volleyball as a kid before going on to play club hockey, of all things, at USC. It was there he earned a degree and went on to work 12 years in finance. But a chance encounter sent him down a path that led him to become a volleyball coach, a successful one that included stops with the U.S. women's national team, the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio, and coaching stints at USC and Utah. And this past December, he was tabbed to be the next head coach for Arizona State. Now, after 7 years with just one winning record, Van Niel has orchestrated an immediate turnaround for the Sun Devils. ASU is now 18-2 and number 17 in the national rankings following a big road straight sets victory over number 5 Oregon. In this episode, JJ and I discussed the hot start to the season, why he came to ASU, how he went from the hockey rink to the coaching ranks, the best dishes the team made in their chopped competitions, and much more. So let's get to it. Here's my conversation with ASU volleyball coach JJ Van Niel. I want to start off, looking back at a pretty eventful weekend. Obviously, the huge day on Sunday we'll talk about in a moment, but unfortunately, kind of before that, a tough loss to Oregon State in 5 sets. How did you see the team bounce back or kind of react to that loss and maybe set the stage for the big win on Sunday?
Um, well, I didn't, of course, you never know how they're going to react. You hope they're going to react well. I think it was certainly like a good wake up call. Oregon State's always a tough place to play. I've had quite a few memorable, frustrating matches up there, and I didn't know how we'd react. I did feel like they were not very happy, at the end of that match. I think sometimes, like, when you're on a team, it's like, 20 minutes later, everyone's kind of just joking around, having fun. I didn't feel that on our bus ride, that's for sure. It wasn't the most enjoyable bus ride, I think, for anyone. Not that anyone was doing anything wrong. I just think it was a somber, it was a tough 5-setter, and it was one of those things where I think once you get to a 5-setter, there's a lot of randomness that happens, and I'm sure USC felt that way against us because they led in a lot of categories in that fourth set. They completely demolished us, and then we came back and we won in fifth, and it was like the exact same thing happened except for it was Oregon State doing it to us. In the fourth set, we beat them like 25-12 or whatever it was. I don't know. It was quite a big difference, and we beat them in plenty of categories, and then you go to fifth and anything happens and they came out on top. So that one was certainly a tough one to swallow. And I think the team was pretty awesome the next day. I know when it was Mary's birthday and we were down for video, they were really locked in for our video sessions against Oregon. They were locked in at practice. I think there was a different level of, I don't know if it was different. You could feel it in that practice the day before. But yeah, we just came out and we kind of executed on a bunch of things we talked about being really important to try to do well against Oregon. It worked out in our benefit. So it's cool.
Yeah, obviously a huge win, a tremendous bounce back and response by your team, taking down the number 5 team in the country on the road. I believe it was the first top 5 win for the program in about a decade. How big do you think was that win was, not just maybe in the moment, but kind of, another feather in the cap and kind of, setting the course on this, on your vision for the Sun Devil program moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's always a big deal because when you can take down, a team of that quality, it gives you some confidence you can hang with some people, and we haven't played a bunch of ranked teams. I think we played a bunch of really good teams, and I think especially early on, like some of the rankings are just pretty random. I mean, obviously, there's always like Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Stanford, Texas, but then you just get a lot of randomness with the rest of them. so I think we've played a bunch of really good matches against some really good teams. But I think the fact that they were so highly ranked and the fact that we could come in and bounce back, I think that just gives our team, some confidence, and they were pretty fired up about it. Now we got to go make sure we don't have a a letdown, right? When you can, it's not very often you can knock off a top 10 team, top 5 team. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, obviously, so far this season, a win over a top 5 program, number 17 in the polls, 18-2 overall record. Did you expect this level of success this early in year one?
No, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I did. I did think, my team knows me, and there's never really matches that we're going in thinking we're not winning. There's just a competitive nature of kind of how we are. But I did see something pretty special in the spring, I think, with just the way the culture has come together and how hard the kids are working and kind of some of the things they did in the spring. I was excited of like, I think we can surprise some people. But I think if you would have said, hey, you're going to be 18-2 towards the end of Pac-12 play, I would have said, I'm not sure. So it's definitely been a fun ride so far, and we got to keep it up. I mean, if we still got some work to do, that's for sure. And the Pac-12's very easy. We're going to play in a very tough couple places here next weekend, or this weekend coming up.
And of course, you're no stranger to the Pac-12 conference at all. Most recently with the stints at USC and Utah. When you were on the other side, and you're facing Arizona State over the last few years, what was kind of your view of the Sun Devil volleyball program?
I told the kids the first day I was in there, I loved playing at the arena. I loved playing at DFA, and I loved being in Tempe because I always wear my gear, and everyone would always talk smack when we're walking around, which I always thought that's fun. That just means fans are passionate. That's a good thing. And I always felt like the environment in DFA was really good, with the 942 and just the crowd. We get good crowds here. But the one thing I always said was we always knew when we went to ASU that we were going to play like a really scrappy team. And I'll be honest, I didn't think we were that scrappy against Oregon State. And I felt like, I remember when we walked in and we're getting ready for the matches, that if we can outdig Oregon, we will beat them. And we didn't outdig them, but if you add digs plus blocks, we did, because I think we had 52 digs and they had 52 digs, but we had, I think, 10 blocks to their 6 or something. And to me, the point of that comment was just playing with a reckless abandon, being super scrappy on defense, going for everything, and being really gritty. And I thought we did a really good job of that. And so I've always felt that way when I've come in and played Arizona State. They've always been a team where you do not look. I mean, really all Pac-12 teams, but we never looked past them. And it was like, okay, we know this could go 5. We know they're going to dig a bunch of balls, and we've got to be really patient. And so yeah, I think I told them that on day one when I first met with those kids. I was like, hey, one of the things I've always felt like at Arizona State, and we want to keep that, is they scrap, grind, very blue collar, which I love. That's in my nature. So that's how we are. And I love it.
So after years of going up against those scrappy Sun Devils, you get the opportunity to be the head man of the program. Why was Arizona State, and why was this opportunity right for you?
I've alluded to a couple of them, but when you're looking, when you're an assistant or associate head coach, you're always, everywhere you go, you think, would I want to try to build a program there? And of course, the first thing you're thinking is, can I be successful there? Have they had success there? And they have here in the past. Can I recruit there? And there's a bunch of things that go into recruiting, but there's a very vibrant volleyball community in the area. We got to get some kids to want to stay home, and because there's a lot of talent in Arizona, so that's one of them. Is there support behind the program? And I feel like there unequivocally is, with Ray Anderson. Since day one when I talked to him, he's talked about promoting and investing in volleyball, and they've done that. Graham and Christine have been great. Like, you've seen it, and we get to play in Mullet now along with DFA. They're both phenomenal facilities. And so the investment's important. And then, of course, fans are really important. And I think this is a cool area in that it's the 5th largest city in the country. So you've got the demographics to kind of support a team. But I've always said you don't really have. I mean, obviously there's some traffic out here, but it's not like LA. And so I think you've got an area and you've got these areas around the campus where you can draw and get crowds in there. And we've seen it. I think right now we're 16th in the nation in attendance or average attendance per game or something like that, which is super cool. And we want to grow that for sure. And I think when you do that, then more recruits want to come. You can be more successful. And quite frankly, the other big thing is like, would I want to live there? And yeah, of course, I love this trip. I've always loved this trip. And then when you talk about the recruiting side, that goes into like what I want to live there. Like Tempe is a cool area. It's basically a college campus or like a college town, but then you still have Phoenix and the surrounding areas. So when you get bored of the college town, you can go do other things. You can go hiking, there's plenty of like, if you're bored out here, it's kind of a you issue. Whereas I think, sometimes in a college town, like it's the only thing to do. You don't have as much of a variety. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I feel like this place, you get the best of both worlds with kind of college town Tempe that's grown, obviously. And then you got Phoenix and all the surrounding cool areas.
So you get to Tempe and you kind of evaluate the program. When you kind of go through that triage situation, you look at a program that had just one winning season over the past 7, some struggles in recent years. What were some of the things that kind of jumped out to you right away, like the immediate action items for you?
For me, the immediate action items were very simple. It was you're investing in culture, and to do that, you got to invest in relationships. So we had 9 kids here, and it was really going all in with building some trust and relationships with those to start with the culture. And then I didn't really approach the training side any differently than I've always thought about training. I'm a very analytical person, and I've over the years built up kind of a database of the Big Ten and Pac-12, and have quite a few metrics that I like to look at and evaluate. And you just start building out some standards and some goals with kind of areas that you want to focus on. And we got to working on those right away. And I told them exactly what I was doing. You went in, it's like, we're going to build culture. We're going to coffee a bunch. We're going to go get lunch together. I'm going to try to learn about you, invest in you outside of volleyball, because I think that's important. They know that you care about them as an athlete and as a human being. And then I brought up, hey, here's where we are, both within the Pac-12 and just kind of in the history of all this Big Ten and Pac-12 data. And here's where we want to go in these few areas, and we're going to invest in these areas. And we think if we do that, that it'll create, a few more wins. And, so far it's been pretty good. So.
All right, so I want to go back a little bit in your own your background right now, and it seems like that volleyball wasn't maybe perhaps the sport that kind of you played throughout. When you were a kid, what were volleyball in kind of the middle school, high school age? What were some of the main sports? What were you into as a kid?
I was into everything. The only thing I wasn't into was football. I started playing Pop Warner, and didn't love getting hit all the time. I was pretty small, and they had me playing linebacker, and quite frankly, I don't think I was very good at it. So I quickly switched out of that. But I played soccer, I played baseball. As a kid, I played basketball as a kid. Once I was in high school, I played soccer. And then I only did that for freshman year. I played volleyball, I played water polo, and then I started playing hockey, ice hockey and roller hockey, and became pretty obsessed with those 2 sports. So, but I've always loved all sports, that's for sure.
No, the hockey thing really jumped out to me. I'm a hockey player. I'm a goalie. I've been playing since I was in high school myself. And so, of course, you go on to USC. You're on the club ice hockey team there. What's a scouting report on you from your hockey days?
I was a left wing, right hand shot, and I had a very deadly snapshot, which I probably could still roll out. I was playing a little when I was at Utah. I actually started playing again.
Oh, nice.
And it was a blast. I still used all my old equipment from college, and so people would look at me funny when I'd walk in, but I still had a shot. My skating's declined quite rapidly. But yeah, I was kind of a sniping left wing.
Nice. Is there anything that you're able to take away from hockey and kind of translate it to volleyball a little bit? Any kind of, stuff that kind of goes across those sports?
I think it's, everything to me just comes back to like the hard work and intentionality. We try to have a lot of intentionality in what we do. Um, and I'm definitely kind of a blue collar uh, kind of person when it just comes to just becoming obsessive about trying to get better stuff and working really hard. Like when I started playing hockey, Brett Hull was really awesome back then, and I wanted to be able to hit a snapshot. Like he had a really deadly snapshot, and same with Mark Messier. And I would watch those guys, and I would literally go to this place called Yummy Yogurt. It was outside, and me and my buddy would go, and he'd be a goalie, and I for hours I'd just take shots on him, and I watch them and try to figure out how to hit a snapshot and try to get the release really quick. And um, so yeah, I just think that kind of hard work and tenacity is something that I've always prided myself in, and hopefully we can get that going with our athletes. Of course, and being really tenacious about getting really good at a specific item, which is kind of how we try to approach a lot of stuff.
Now, you get the degree from USC and then spent 12 years in finance, and it seemed like that, was a career in coaching. Was that something kind of was lurking and maybe poking in the back of your mind, or was that, we'll get to the kind of the story of how of kind of maybe the mix up that led you down this path, but did you ever feel like kind of the urge to coach or get into sports in a more serious way?
Well, I did help coach my high school volleyball team the first year I had graduated. Their coach bailed at the last minute. They needed an assistant coach, and that was a weird experience because there were guys I just played with, so I probably was more like just a practice player than a coach. Um, but no, it was pretty random. I was playing volleyball in some adult leagues, and one of the nights I was supposed to play when I was in San Diego, and I was still working in the finance world. Our league, or it might have been a pickup game, whatever it was, had been canceled because I had a club tryout that night, and I didn't. No one told me, so I showed up and I just randomly asked if they ever needed help, and they said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And I said, "I don't give me money because I'm going to miss a bunch." Because especially at that time, I was traveling in New York and DC almost every week, one of the two places, and basically from day one, I just was in love. Like I went in there and I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I get really good at this? How do I teach the game? I got really invested in like just the analytics side of like, I didn't hear anyone really talk about that much. And so I just was trying to figure out like, okay, how do you use analytics to be better at coaching or scouting or whatever. And so I just kind of became obsessive about that, and I fell in love. So yeah.
When did you realize that, okay, like this is the career, this is something I have to go at full time and just kind of, put the finance behind me?
Um, I probably knew a couple years into coaching because I was investing so much into coaching and volleyball and so little into my career, which of course is not good for your career, and then in 2010, it was actually around this time in 2010. It was October 2010. I left, and I was going to take, like a sabbatic. I was like, oh, I'll just take like 6 months and kind of coach and have fun with coaching and not worry about the finance stuff. And then that's when I just realized every time I started interviewing for finance jobs, I was like sick to my stomach. I was like, all right, I don't want to do that. Like, and I try to tell the players now, and I tell my kids, like, you got to find something you're passionate about, and you're not going to ever work a day in your life. I mean, even on the bad days, and believe me, Friday night was a very bad evening for me. But I still absolutely love the opportunity to come in and coach the kids and be in a gym. It's awesome.
And then, of course, over the years, working your way up and then get an opportunity with the U.S. women's national team. You get to go to, be part of the Olympics team in Rio in 2016. How much did that kind
Yeah,
of, validate that choice, but also just kind of with the big things that you took away from, seeing, the game played at that level?
yeah. I think the special thing for me about being with the U.S. team was all the the smart people I got to work with. Obviously, Karch, who, I mean, talk about a good mentor, like just his obsession with being better, and like the guy's done everything, and it's still like, how can I be better? How can I be the best coach in the world, after being the best player in the world, and exploring that. And you're just around all these great minds. The international game, of course, is really fun. You're literally with the best athletes. So understanding how they train and the things that they focus on, and I think some of the health concerns, because as you get older, which definitely comes into play with the grind of the college season, and how much mental and physical toll it takes on our student athletes, which no one really appreciates until you go through it. But learning the load management side from them. But really, for me, it was like being around all the guys I got to be around during those years. With Karch and Jamie Morrison, Joe Trinzi, who's like a really, really smart savant when it comes to the stat stuff, and we got to like geek out on stuff, and he'd have an idea and I'd try to help figure out how to solve that problem. And Tom Black, I mean, there's numerous others, but I think you just get to be around really smart people trying to solve problems, and you just learn from all that stuff. And quite frankly, also being around those athletes, seeing how Courtney Thompson approaches the game and training, and Jordan Larson and Faluka. I mean, all of those athletes, what an amazing opportunity for me to get to be around them and see how they approach the game, both mentally and physically.
So obviously a great experience, and mixing it up with those minds and taking some stuff away from them, incorporating into your own kind of coaching toolbox. You mentioned, the going back to the analytical side of things, obviously the degree or the career in finance probably played in that a bunch. How much did the analytics now kind of inform your approach, whether a day-to-day or a more strategic viewpoint of, being the head of a program?
For me, it's always been really, really important. Again, it's looking at where your team's at, and then you're trying to figure out the most important metrics, right? Because you only have so many hours in the day, you only have so much time to train. So for me, it's always been, you're gonna, basically what I did when I got the job. Like, I'd already known a lot, but like I took last year's Arizona State team and I looked at all these various metrics and tried to figure out, okay, where do we have the most upside to make material changes in how they were, and does getting better in that area generate wins? And then you use that and go try to train it up and figure out a solution to that. So I would say for me at this point in my career, it's a lot more global. Like, as much as I am a stats guy, I think the day-to-day stuff, like looking at a weekend stats, I think it starts becoming a little bit of fool's gold, because the sample is typically not big enough for you to be like, oh, well, we were bad in trans this weekend. That doesn't necessarily mean you're bad in trans. Like, how have you been on the whole season? Well, you'd look into it. So you'd say, okay, we were low in this area. Why? Like maybe it's a rotation. Why were we not good this week? And then there might be some small things. So I do look quite a bit at numbers, because you're just trying to figure out like where areas you can make small increments. But I do think over the years, I've learned more and more there's sort of an art behind it too. If you're just totally dogmatic on the numbers, you could be missing something, but they usually give you some clues, and then that's where you got to go dig in and, hey, why were we down this weekend, or why is there a downward trend, and how do we stave that off or fix it? And then, does it even matter? Like, that's a big one. So there's kind of a lot that goes into it. I don't know if that answered your question, but
yeah, so obviously, lots that you can get from those numbers and the analytics, but also, you mentioned some stuff, the more intangible stuff, installing the culture that you want here in Tempe. What's been that process like, kind of installing that culture, and just, how far along in that process are you, kind of 10 months in?
I think we've overachieved where I thought we would be. And it's just a testament to the team. I mean, I love the kids that I get to coach. I feel so thankful. I don't know if I tell them enough, but I feel really, really grateful that the group that I have is my first group. From day one, the 9 that I inherited here have been absolute rock stars when it comes to hard work, investing in the program, investing in what we're trying to do, investing in our staff. They've just been all in. And I mean, I literally have shivers right now in my arms thinking about them because I love them to death. And I hope they know that. It's been really, really special because I think we're ahead of the curve because of them. And even the new kids that we recruited that, we spent a lot of time on trying to do our diligence with the kids that we bring in. And we brought in 6. The 9 that were here have been awesome in bringing them into the fold. And then the kids that have come in have been awesome at coming into the fold, like they've been bought in and they've been all in. And this team works really hard. This team is an absolute joy to be around. Like I love when we get to do anything together. Like it just makes my day. They just genuinely love being around each other, which is really cool. And it's not to say that other teams don't do that, but like, I don't know, in my experience, a lot of times you just get, I don't want to say cliques, but just a lot of different little groups. And this is a group that I just feel like really is a team. And they really love and care for one another. And they understand like the differences. We have pretty big age gaps in some of them, 18 to 23 right now. That's a wide range. A 23-year-old is not thinking about the same things as an 18-year-old. Yet, if I put our 23-year-old with our 18-year-old to room, they're fired up and they have fun and they love it, And usually the young kids are the ones that are talking the most about how excited they are when they get to room with the older veterans, So that's cool.
One of the things that I heard about that in terms of kind of the team bonding and the building the culture is recreating some challenges from Chopped. And so want to get your take on like what have been some of the best creations, and maybe if there's one that was kind of like maybe it missed the mark a little bit in kind of a fun way.
Yeah, we did a smoothie competition and one of them was just a puddle. It was just not good. It tasted like decent,
Okay.
but man, when you looked at the presentation, you're like, yeah, there's no one that would ever buy that. But I think probably the one that was really funny was they came to my house and my family hadn't met the team yet. So we did the event at my house and it was 3 teams and each team was going to make a pizza. And there was a team, we have a couple of vegans on our team, or ova vegetarians as they would call themselves. But they were making a vegan pizza and everyone was kind of snickering at them. And to be honest, even like us coaches were like, yeah, they probably don't have a chance. Like the other pizzas were like their own sausage, pepperoni, whatever. So 2 of them were making kind of your traditional pizza and one was making this vegan concoction. And when we went around and started testing it, and like my kids and my wife were also testers along with our staff and Presley's sister, it was like unanimous the vegan pizza, which no one expected. We were just like, oh,
Wow.
we're
All
gonna.
right.
It was absolutely legit. That was pretty funny, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's biased," and we're like, "Just try it." And I think everyone did agree. It was pretty good.
Now, I want to talk about some of the key players here. Obviously Marta has been around for a while, experienced some highs and lows during her career, just kind of being a part of this program, but obviously having a tremendous season so far. What has she meant to this program, to in kind of the year one and the success that you guys are having?
Yeah, I mean, Marta is definitely scoring a lot of points for us and is a very key part of our offense and defense and serving and culture. I mean, one of the things that I think gets missed is I love her presence on the court because she's really, really steady. And she obviously carries a huge weight. Like she gets set more than anyone else. And we definitely rely on her to score. And um, I think she knows it. She never talks about it. She's never stressed about it. She's very matter of fact. I love, when I can talk to her about some things that I think she needs to maybe work on. It's like, oh, okay. And then she just goes out and starts working on it. There's no like, I don't want to do that. That's not my style, or I'm not doing that. It's like, oh, okay, great. And she does. She's really special. And she's a fun person to be around. She's really funny in her own way. So
And then, of course, Jelly Sear has been another key member of the squad, both kind of on the offensive side and also on the defense. What have you seen from her this year, and how big of a role has she been to the success?
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument that Jelly's like probably made one of the biggest improvements over anyone versus sort of past seasons. She's been an absolute rock star in serve receive. Could make a pretty strong argument. She's probably one of the top 5 passers in the country, top 10 passers in the country. And as I've said on numerous times, that she's like having another libero out there. So she can hit on the left, but her ability to defend and to pass the ball and keep us in system has been like really game changing, because when you're in system, you have a better chance of scoring. And she's been really lights out in that. Her and Mary Schroll are like have to be 2 of the top ranked passers in the country.
Speaking of Mary, one of the incoming transfers, and obviously, a very key part of this defense, leading the team in digs so far. What is it like just seeing her have that success, but also as a Tempe native, being able to do that as kind of a person to come home and have that success in the hometown, as you mentioned earlier, keeping some of that talent here in the state of Arizona is one of the goals.
Yeah, I think it was huge when we started talking and we were able to bring someone home. I can tell you, and I hope all the Arizona kids hear this. When people found out Mary was coming home, like every club around her was fired up. I think one of the things that a lot of kids forget when they leave their hometowns is how excited hometowns are about their hometown kids. It's not to say that fans don't love Marta and Jelly and everyone, but like the amount of texts I received when Mary committed and we announced it was like pretty staggering. It surprised even me. And just I think it's been huge for us, and she's been obviously a huge key. The fact that this team is one of the better passing teams I think in the country now, versus definitely wasn't last year, is largely attributed to Mary being here and Jelly and all the improvements those guys have made to our serve receive. And then of course Shania and Estelle and all the other kids that are contributing, but those 2 really lock it down and serve receive for us, and it's a big deal.
So, of course, having great success here in the Pac-12, but unfortunately, the conference run and seems to be at an end. And of course, yourself as a Southern California guy, USC alum, and then all your time at a couple prior stops. What does it mean? Just kind of see the end of the conference, but also looking ahead to what is what are your thoughts on kind of the future in a Big 12?
Look, I mean, of course I'm excited about the new. Because it's a new experience, right? It's a new challenge. You get to play a bunch of new teams. We're going to go to all these different cities, different days that they play, all these new challenges. And for me, I think I love challenges. It's one of the reasons I've always loved the Pac-12 is in the Pac-12, if you take a night off, you will lose. Like it doesn't matter who you're playing. Everyone on any given night can win. And I think it's going to be the same way in the Big 12. I think they have a similar type of conference where you got to go in and be on your A game. So the new challenge is going to be really fun, and that's exciting. And of course, we have a home, and that's all great. But I'm certainly bummed about no more Pac-12. I grew up in the Pac-10. I went to USC. I've coached all my life or all my college coaching, aside from the men's stuff I did, has been in the Pac-12. And you just have this familiarity, when you go in the Pac-12 of this is where we like to go eat. This is where you stay. Really cool cities to go visit, but it's blown up. It's really quite sad, but that's kind of the name of the game right now in college sports. And I don't think we're done. I think in 5 years it's going to look even more different than it does right now, for sure.
So when you look ahead for the remainder of the season and perhaps early and beyond, has this hot start maybe changed your expectations, or maybe even your timeline in terms of what you want to accomplish in kind of the early phases of your tenure?
No, I mean, when I took the job, and people are like, "Oh, you're gonna be bad, and who cares about making the tournament? You got 5 years or whatever." My goal was to make the tournament the first year. We still aren't there. I don't know if we will. Like, we have to win some more matches for sure. Um, and I think once you get in the tournament, then it's a new goal of like, hey, what can we do? Can we surprise some people? But yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty competitive, so I did not take the job thinking like, oh, I'm going to take 5 years to try to make the first tournament. Now we could make it this year, we could not, and then it could take 5 years. I don't know. Like there's so much randomness and who the recruits you get. Like there's all these other things that are, but um, I don't know. I I'm trying to make sure I don't sound arrogant. That's not my point. Like, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty humble, and I'm always like thinking I really try to just focus on one. Like I'm hyper focused right now on Utah. I haven't even looked at
Yeah.
Colorado yet because it's like the next match is the only thing you can control, and you got to be great at that. Um, and we could go on a massive losing streak and not make the tournament, right? So we're in a good position to do it, but we still have a bunch of work to do. So for me, I always approach every season as we're going to go try to make the tournament. You know, what do we have to do with the personnel in order to win volleyball matches? You know, and that starts in spring. So I think I've always been pretty obsessive about training and trying to find ways to win through what you're training. And that's just how we always focus. So obviously, this has been a phenomenal season so far that we got to keep up. But yeah.
So, going from the kind of that micro focus, just on the next match, but maybe pulling back a little bit to kind of the 30,000 foot view when, you look down 3, 5 years down the road and, you've really been able to kind of establish and implement your program, your vision here with Sun Devil Volleyball. What are the kind of the core pillars that you want Sun Devil Volleyball to represent both kind of on the court and off?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I think, on the court, the goal is to pretty much year in and year out be on the mix to making the tournament, and then depending on the year, like making some runs. It would be naive to say like, oh, I think we should be a Final Four team every year. Like, I think there's only a few schools that can do that because they just get all the top recruits constantly, right? But I do think when I took the program, it was, hey, can we build a sustainable winning program for the long term? Not like, hey, let's just win 1 year and then take 4 more years to make the tournament. Like the goal is to, hopefully capture more of the Arizona talent, get them to want to stay home and be around and be excited about playing in front of their hometown. Because there is a lot of talent out here, and then getting talent from elsewhere and making sure kids know like what a cool place this is to play college volleyball at, and we got Mullet Arena now and DFA. There's just so many awesome things. So it really is to build a sustainable kind of program that can win year in, year out. And then, the off the court, the culture stuff it's pretty easy. It's some of the things we talk about a lot. It's the relationship piece. We're investing you guys on the court and off the court. I want the kids to have a holistic experience. So it's not just about volleyball. If they say, hey, we have an internship that we want to do, it's encouraging them to go do that. Obviously in the constraints of like they can't miss practice during the season, of course, but there's life after college, and we want to make sure these guys get developed off the court as well, like leadership stuff. We do leadership training. That stuff's really, really important to me. Academics are really important to me. So yeah, it's like the holistic development of our kids and being really intentional with that. Intentionality is something we talk about a lot.
And then last one for you, obviously the hot start has got people taking notice and, a top 25 team. For any ASU fans out there who, might just be focused on football or basketball or baseball, they'll want to come out and support, what do you feel is the best way for an ASU fan who might not be familiar with the program or even just collegiate volleyball as a whole to kind of, take notice and see what you guys are got going on?
Of course, follow us on social media, because I think we're putting out some stuff. The kids on this team are awesome. And if you're a student and you run into them, talk to them, my bet is that you're going to love them and come out to a match. I think volleyball is a really, really fun sport. Especially when you go watch it live, it's way better live, I think, than even on TV. Like I think a live volleyball match is really, really exciting. So I would just encourage them to come down and, if you can run into the team, meet the team, certainly follow Instagram. There's some cool stories, and we've got a bunch of really unique unique, special individuals on our team.
I'd like to thank JJ for taking the time to talk with me for this episode. I'd also like to thank Kimberly Hayner of ASU Media Relations. Make sure you are subscribed to Speak of the Devils on the podcast platform of your choice for more episodes featuring guests such as Kenny Dillingham, Brian Ward, Trenton Bourget, Jalen Conyers, BJ Green, and many more. And also be sure to give me a follow on Instagram and Twitter at bdenny29.